And I think I'm here a little selfishly because I want to also share my life with others here and get a kind of a feedback loop on that, you know, I'm not alone, that I'm here with a group trying to accomplish the same thing and trying to be inspired to do what I'm doing in the business world. So that's a short version.
Great. Emery, would you like to go next?
Well, the reason I'm joining the call, well, first of all, this is Emery Koenig. The reason I was joining the call is I missed most of the EoC stuff in San Antonio, and I stayed in the main hall with my wife, and so I thought it was a good opportunity to catch up. I've known about the EoC for many years, been sort of finding ways to introduce those concepts, but coming from the very end of the different business spectrum for multinational corporations. And there it's more of an impact thing or what you can do. And I've since retired 4 years ago, 4 years and 1 week. And so I've been I serve on 8 boards and trying to help businesses and organizations just try to, you know, obviously be the best they can be, but also try to live the principles of the Catholic social teaching in today's world. So.
Great, thank you, Emery. Renata, would you like to go next?
Renata
you might be on mute.
It doesn't look like she's jumped back on, Jim.
Okay. Well, go ahead and volunteer. Who would like to go ahead?
Okay. I can go ahead. My name is Lumi. I'm part of the Focolare Center here in Maryland. I love to be part of the EoC. Actually, in San Antonio, I participated to every session of the EoC. I really believe in it because I can see that a new culture can come out from the EoC. And I think there is a new moment also in the expression, in the development of the EoC, that we need to support it and do anything to make it happen. So, and I'm here because I want to be part also of the webinar in order to do all my part to build this new culture of giving, this new culture of business, and so on.
Great, thank you.
For
thank you,
opening up this webinar. So,
welcome.
Thank you. Oh, next, who would like to go?
I can go. I'm Mike Morse. I'm living here in Luminosa, and part of the YCNA, which is the Youth Center for North America. So we began just about last year, a little bit sooner than that. And I'm here because we really hope that we can eventually establish a connection between the young adults and the EoC, whether it be to be active participants or just to, you know, believe in the culture, to follow the culture. So we're developing the YCNA, the Youth Center, as we go along, but we hope soon to establish this connection. There were some young adults present in San Antonio, so that was already an opportunity for them to link up and get close to the EoC, understand it more, but hopefully that can continue and grow more and more. So I hope to be able to help however I can with that.
Great, thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Who else is on the call? Back on.
Okay, we are Joe and May here. We can say something. So we are Joe and May Shehade from, we're in Los Angeles. We have a retail pharmacy business, and like many of you, we're here because many of the things you said resonates a lot with what we also feel. We've been part of that culture for many years and trying to apply parts of it at least. We missed, the timing for San Antonio was not good for us. We were not able to attend. And I was personally really thinking, I said, I wish really there is a way where we can connect together in throughout the year. And this call was kind of an answer for that, hoping that that connection make that blood circulates and light shine even more. You want to say something, Maya?
Well, yeah, I don't want to add like more, to Joe, but I wanted so much to go to San Antonio, but I couldn't do it. And so this is, one of the reasons I joined the call. And definitely, I mean, to live more, to have more ideas, like how to live this way, at work, for, to share the communion, especially, is very important. So that's why.
Thank you. Is anyone else back on that hasn't spoken? No? Well, I'm Jim Funk, and I'm an EoC business owner. My consulting firm does leadership and organizational development. I've been in business for 10 years, and I'm also a member of the North America Commission of the EoC, which has been a volunteer role for about the last probably 7 or 8 years. My plan is to retire this year. It'll be about mid-year, probably July. So while I won't have my business, I will continue to promote the notions and principles of the economy of communion, and I will continue to do some work with an EoC business based in Singapore named Consulus, C-O-N-S-U-L-U-S, as they are working to spread the work of the EoC and our principles through consulting in the countries where they operate. So that's kind of my plan, and why I'm here is because I think it's important that we have connections, that we have the ability to learn from each other, and to really provide encouragement and resources for each other. As we hope to continue these forums on a monthly basis, it'll be a chance for us to share our successes and to share our difficulties and struggles, and learn from each other and support each other and perhaps give ideas. Has someone joined the call?
Yes, this is Kevin Kelly.
Well, hi, Kevin. This is Jim Funk. There are now 7 of us on the call, and we're just going around to say why we're interested in this call and who we are. So you're next, if you don't mind going ahead and jumping in with that.
Okay, sure. I mean, I'm interested. I guess one is a follow-on to the event in San Antonio around the whole economy of communion and its just its impact as well as its scope around North America. And then how we participate in that in a maybe a broader way. I want to just share a short experience from San Antonio. I can do that if I can wait if it's better to do that.
Well, that's actually going to be the very next topic, is to share an experience or a takeaway from San Antonio, and to say a little bit about maybe something that struck us, or an event we attended or a talk we attended that we just want to highlight as impactful to us. And so that'll be our next topic. And then the other 2 topics that we had planned on today's agenda are to share stories from your business or as an employee. And then our final topic will be to talk about future topics that you would like to discuss, so that when we set the agenda for the next call, we can take that into consideration in that. So because I have to leave at 10:30, not the motion that you have going, the momentum, so you can continue on those topics. But I would say that, Kevin, since you're ready to say something from San Antonio, gosh, that'd be great if you go first, and then we can all jump in with any takeaways or sharing from San Antonio.
Sure. I guess I'd point out, I guess, two things. One was the panel on the economy of communion, the first day. I think it was the presentation with Celeste, Andy, and that group that was there. And I just was touched a lot by, I think somebody else may have joined.
Keep going, Kevin, no problem.
On the subsequent units. We did not know that at the time of LTM that, so this was, the process was different, less a run-in and no cleaning and disassembling.
Oops.
So in the end, the LCM unit may have a little bit more debris inside of it because it wasn't, it didn't go through the cleaning process.
Hey, folks, are you in our meeting hall? Hello?
Disassembly and cleaning, yeah, I guess I would say.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, maybe you should try this because these are important numbers, I think. So,
I think we've got two meetings going on at once. Can they hear us?
Yeah, I don't think so, John. Somebody else, Jeff, it looks like. I don't know who that might be, but I see I don't know who's participating beyond our group here.
Yeah, there should be 7 of us right now.
The screen
Who else
shows
is joined?
14,
Did
Jim.
not yet introduced.
We have 14.
Yeah, just so you know, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, this is John. I just dialed in, and so I assume everybody can hear me now.
We can, but we can hear a bunch of other things, John. So just trying to make sure we're not crossing paths here. Sounds like they went away. Sounds like they went away. Okay.
Okay. Must have been a cross-up somewhere. So, John, have you been able to listen in so far to know where we are?
Yeah. Are you talking to me, Jim?
I was talking to John Hakama.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Have you been able to listen in so far to know where we are in our call?
Yes, and I think we got as far as, has everybody had a chance to share?
When you disassemble the unit here, do you see already some debris or what's the...
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
We've got some interference on the line, John.
Sharp edge or whatever?
Yes, we did. We saw some dust that was...
Okay, was that the person that we were hearing, I think?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so. They don't seem to be able to hear us. So,
John, did that come through your line, or can you tell if it did?
You know, I'm not sure where. Yeah, because should be the only person able to use this. So I'm very surprised. I'm going to have to check with Zoom to see what happened. Now, is Robert Eichel? I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
I'll tell you, we could waste a lot of time doing this, or let's kind of maybe fight through it, and let's let Kevin give some experience from from San Antonio. How about that?
Please.
It seems like it's...
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. And I was just beginning to talk about two things. One was the panel, and I was, I guess, really touched by the phrase that Celeste had used about the mustard seed, because sometimes I feel very small in the big scheme of things from a farming standpoint and what we are trying to do in a regenerative farming process. And the idea of just being a mustard seed felt motivating. The other thing that happened was in a conversation in the lobby of the hotel. And this was with Amy's lawyer companion. I think she was from Omaha, maybe. And she asked me a question. We got around to discussing what we were doing, and we said we are operating an EoC business. And she asked me the question, are the EoC principles in your legal documents for your, your filing, like your charter? And I said, I really don't know if we have been that intentional and purposeful about making those two things overlap. So I really wanted to go back and examine that idea to make sure that everything we do, I think in our intention, we do that and we keep that in mind. But I think, well, let's have that documented in how we are organized as a business, that we in fact are intentional about including those EoC values in how we file with our Secretary of State as we do our business. So those were two things that I felt were good outcomes for us, for our business that we operate.
Great, thanks, Kevin. And John Hokama, since you have a microphone, would you want to take over facilitating? And I do have to get on the road, so sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. Appreciate your getting us kicked off here, Jim.
Sure.
Take care.
See you
Jim.
all next call.
Yes.
Thank you. You too. And we can continue with stories from San Antonio.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and thank you so much, Jim. So yeah, feel free to share other significant moments for you from your time in San Antonio. Is everybody able to hear okay? Oh wait, how did,
Yes.
yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm not sure why folks are muted.
They're muted, John, because we are purposefully muted on purpose, so we don't speak and have background noise.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so just checking to see, yeah, because I also usually have controls, but I'm not able to find them today. Yeah, who would like to, somebody else would like to share from their time in San Antonio?
Hi, everybody. This is Katie. I can share an experience too, I guess. I mean, just overall, it was a really positive, inspiring weekend, I felt, just to generally to say. I guess there were many things, but I guess I'll share one experience that happened, and it was actually the first day trying to decide where to go. With the offerings of the workshop, and I really wanted to be in the hall actually for both sessions, but I was kind of torn again. So Kevin went the first session when Jesus was speaking, he went to the EoC and I stayed in the hall with Jesus. Then the second choice was again to stay in the same place I was or go in the EoC, and I have to kind of go to confession here in the sense that when I saw that it was a panel that was really oriented towards the academic discussion of the EoC and maybe possible, I guess we would say, comparisons, but it wasn't based on, I mean, Celeste and Andy and other people there certainly have experiences, but it was more of the academic slant is how I understood the billing. So it was a struggle for me to go. And anyway, I decided that I should. And overall, it was a very strong experience for me. First of all, the depth of the knowledge that they brought. You know, we're on the other end of that in terms of just the boots on the ground in the very beginning of that. Just 3 years of trying to implement this in our farm and our business. But what I understood was the absolute necessity of those two things being married up together, and the importance of being able to be there, benefiting from their expertise, from their vision, but also the part that we play, the importance of that. And I guess I think that's an age-old struggle between academia and the actual incarnation or the actual implementation of policies and what that looks like and the struggles that people are facing with the theory or the picture of it. And I guess I felt like we as an organization, as the EoC, animated by this charism, there's a unique opportunity there, I think. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in other situations, but I felt this is really who we are, where those things have an opportunity to show up on equal playing field and actually meld into each other in a way that produces, you know, something more than the sum of the parts. So I thought it was very, just me personally, a very important moment, but also the way the whole weekend was structured was, I think, a beautiful example of that. So I just want to thank those organizers and say it was a fantastic weekend.
Boy, really happy to hear that, Katie. In my experience, and a lot of my background is working with small, medium businesses, and prior to that, working in large corporations, I find with when small business owners get together, there's a certain kind of very practical, utilitarian mindset, because so much of your time is spent in just the basics, right, of how to keep a business going, of hiring the right people, of keeping them, you know, on your staff, etc. So I think it's good to realize that, but at the same time also realize that there's there's a bigger framework, and I think this is where the theologians are very helpful, is they're saying let's also keep in mind the purpose. Why are we doing the thing we're doing? And I think that's the hardest thing to hold in tension, right, as business owners who are seeking to live out the cares and to live out a purpose, as opposed to just being overwhelmed by the day-to-day of running a business. Yeah, the other thing I would observe, this was the first time I have been at a Focolare gathering or with any of the EoC in person. So it was really remarkable for me and very inspiring. And one of the things I sense is that because all of you for years or decades have lived this way of life, there's a community, a sense of vision, of living it out very practically that I think is often missing from other business owners that I have met who seek to live out their faith in business. My general impression is it often feels like it's coming out of very thin soil. It's not well nourished. Whereas I would say when you combine business owners together with a community, a communion of people who live that out, it's very powerful. It feels very different to me from any other expression. And I've been in Christian business owner circles, but what you folks are doing, I think, is quite unique. And certainly would love to see, in these monthly meetings, what you're doing, maybe more codified. I thought Andrew Abella's talk was really excellent to get us thinking in sort of business categories, right? Well, how are sales different for a Focolare person? Or how is marketing different? Or how you do finance and accounting? I was just curious if for any of you, some of those things were helpful insights or any of those topics that you'd like to discuss further.
Joe, go ahead, John.
This is John. I was in the panel, so I probably shouldn't speak. You can look in the afternoon about how we shared all those things. I just wanted to share two other little things from San Antonio before you dive into that. One is just the realization that our life is made up of experiences, right? That's part of the Focolare kind of way of viewing how we're living day to day, the gospel. And probably one of the strongest experiences was on the way back to the airport after it was all over. I got up real early to leave with my daughter to spend a little more time on the way because we were both leaving at the same time, and come to realize that the bus couldn't hold everyone, And I had a little bit later time to leave, but I really wanted to be with her, but I kind of decided to give up my seat to the people there. And I thought, okay, this is part of, what we do, and kind of did that quickly. And then you know, sometimes you feel pretty proud of yourself, like, I can make that decision. It wasn't easy, but anyway, I got back on the next route to the airport on the next bus. And I was so distracted that I ended up going all the way to the airport, going through security, and I left my bag. I left one of my bags in the hotel lobby because I got distracted. And so at first I was upset, but I realized, oh my gosh, this is part of this, you know. But it turns out the hotel was able to get my bag, and I went back through and got back through. It was a lot of hassle, but as I was living it, I was reminded that this is typical of a business owner every day. You have these kind of crazy things that happen. And I was mindful because of everything I'd heard from the theologians and the talks that it's kind of this mindfulness during business that is part of this, and that it has been reinforced for me over the years. And so I just try to keep that as a little treasure. Like that's kind of what it's all about. It's not necessarily coming up with masterful marketing programs or how I do my finances differently, but we do those things. But it's at the core of what I live is this daily interaction as a business person with other people. So
yeah, that's a good thought, John. Thank you.
Can I make a comment? This is Emery. I just want to comment back on Kevin, the question you were asked, and something on 3 of the boards, just coincidentally, goes back to what mountain are we going to climb, and the importance for any business to know what mountain are we going to climb, why are we here to do that, which is really a vision statement, and then how we get there is the mission, right? And I just have noticed in my experience over the years, if I got into a business and something's not working, often either it's the leader, which quite often it could be, but they don't have a clear vision, they don't know what mountain they're climbing, or they can't articulate it, or they can't communicate it very well. And I think, so going back to that question, I think that's a very, very important thing that all businesses, quite frankly, know what mountain we're here to climb, and then how we're going to do that, and have that clarity to actually to unify, to pull people together in order to make that workable. So it's one thought. And the other thing I was thinking about actually was at Mass this morning when I was thinking about this call, and my intention was to simply listen, but the thought came to mind because, you know, I've been aware of EoC for many years, but I think that some of the challenges any business goes through is that you've got different skill sets, especially from the entrepreneur who's starting out. And some of these skill sets, when you're trying to place someone in a business to run it or whatever, you've got starters, builders, maintainers, and fixers. And it's really difficult for an entrepreneur to start that business and also be the exact same skill set to build it and have that exact same skill to maintain it. And so therefore, I think this forum, for example, is very important that we can, hopefully people could learn in practical ways of how to build those skill sets, because they may not necessarily be maintained in the entrepreneur who started that business. It's kind of a rarity to do that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents I want to contribute, and I will now go back on mute.
Nice.
Thank you, Emery, and I would say right on target. Go ahead, John.
I was just saying, just a nice, you know, Emery's the theologian here of the business people. He gives us the 30,000 feet version, and it's very helpful, Emery. You just captured a lot of things in a very short period of time. So,
yeah, that's why I just wanted to share all the scars I got on my back from doing it wrong.
Well, believe me, you are not alone, sir. Well, good. You know, I know there was some interest in, frankly, as I was preparing for this, I had so many different anecdotes that could be shared from San Antonio and from our conversation. But maybe let me just share a couple things that I heard in the opening comments that Andrew Abella made that I thought were quite helpful. you know, one of the things he said is if, and we do this because we really believe that the EoC has a rich, robust way of doing business. He asked the question, well, why is it that not more business owners follow this way of really focusing on relationship first, service first, and not profit? And, you know, very simply, he said that there are a couple of obstacles. There are false beliefs or false ideologies, and there are also false theories or bad habits like being selfish and not trusting. And I think just being caught up in the whole atmosphere around business, that makes it hard to center on kind of what you were saying, John, being mindful, being in the moment, thinking about relationship first rather than a business objective. And many fine business leaders that I've worked with are really good at clarifying vision and clarifying mission. But where they struggled is they would overlook the needs of the people that were running the business and trying to make sense of it. I appreciated too some comments that Liz Wallen made about how EoC businesses have different cost functions. So one of the major costs is the cost of not creating communion with others. So what happens when, for example, you try to build a business in an, in quotes, efficient way that overlooks what people need? Well, the thing is, if you do that in a way that undermines trust with people, it takes many more times to do the same thing because people are suspicious of motives, of, gee, does this manager really understand what's going on here? Why isn't he or she noticing this particular issue we're facing? Doesn't he notice that this particular employee is not pulling his weight on our team or is actually disrupting the team? So actually, at the end of the day, probably a lot of the frictions in business come from failing to pay attention to relational issues and to resolve relational issues. And so really appreciated some of the comments that both Liz and Andrew made at the start. You know, I liked, too, in the area of finance and accounting, your comments, John, about, you know, I really appreciate Chiara's principle that profit ought to go towards three specific needs. One is, if you're a for-profit business, you need to invest in the business, right, to keep building it, to hire new employees, to get new equipment, to buy software, whatever it is you need to invest in to keep the business flourishing. But the second thing is profits also need to be given towards benefiting those who are our neighbors. What needs do they have? Whether it's job training programs to onboard people who maybe were formerly incarcerated, or whether it's, you know, providing, you know, really appreciated Nick's comment about how difficult it is when you're a business owner or a manager to say, we are going to invest more of the profit than we anticipated in paying for health insurance because that's what our people need. That's the right thing to do, right? That's not an easy decision to make in favor of people and saying, I'm going to forego some of that profit because I know in the long run, our call is not only to create profit, but to care for people. And in the third area, you know, actually investing in things like gatherings for the EoC to learn from one another. And it's not easy, though, to capture all the different things I know you all are doing to contribute. So, John, I appreciated, you know, some of the things you talked about is like measuring hours donated or measuring just spending time to create unity in the community or to donate time for the benefit of others and measuring that as well. Just curious if you had other things that you think about or tips that might be helpful for people to say, well, gee, if I were to think about how else I'm investing profit. What should I pay attention to, or how might I measure it?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example today. I'm going at 12:30 to participate in a panel for this group that's an interfaith power and light group that trying to get 100 congregations to become sustainable in our particular city of Indianapolis. And so, you know, because it's part of the environment, I mean, it's part of what the broad scope of what we do as an environmental firm. And it's also interfaith, interreligious effort. I've kind of started working with this group as part of the work I do for a Catholic group, our Catholic Archdiocese. And so what that does also, even though it's business and it's non-business related, because I'm out there as a Catholic, but also head of a company, but also trying to build a kind of a bridge among Christians to do a similar kind of effort. I think it fits in well with the EoC model, that we're kind of bridge builders and communion folks that try to find connections with people. And so that's kind of one example of one of the community kind of things we do in the business. Now, not everybody's environmentally related. So, you know, if you make shoes, maybe you could do that in the shoe world or whatever, you know, or something. So I, you know, over the years, we've learned how to track those kind of things, to just realize purposeful when we do something purposeful that is a little bit beyond, you know, it's not always automatic how this would benefit our company, but we do it as part of this mission we're involved in. So like I said there at the meeting, the more we've learned to be aware, the more you realize that our behavior has changed such that we give a lot more time and energy and actually fun sometimes than what we would have imagined if we had not tracked that, you know. And I'm sure a lot of business owners do those kind of things, community building, other kind of things like that is part of our mission. It's just not, obviously the poverty support and helping those in need and helping redistribute funds is an important thing, but if we can help our community around our business do that, become more of a community, then they become more aware of where the needs are. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's great, John. And you remind me of some things I've heard Paul Catapon talk about in terms of working with other people in IT and security in New York City to collaborate to do things in the community. And so, yeah, in terms of working with an industry group, you can do it not just with a motivation of networking and business development. That's certainly part of why people join business associations, but also you can do it to further really your sense of call about unity. So I think can be done. How about, does anybody want to share like topics that you would like to see us address in future calls? Things that you'd say, boy, I would love to see us talk about, and then fill in the blank. What would be helpful for you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, John. Both Johns. You know, one of the questions that I came away from after listening to the panels, especially Liz and Andy, was this a way to incorporate, you know, certain populations, or to employ certain populations that have some inherent challenges that are present there. One I'm thinking of Andy in particular right now, and the population that he employs with his rehab of these houses and these rental units. And we had an experience, because that's something that we're very interested in doing also with our farm. And there's all kinds of those populations out there that, you know, special needs, or people that have, you know, I mean, incarceration or addiction problems. But we had an experience ourselves this past summer trying to support financially through work on the farm here, the house in particular, someone that struggles with those issues, and really the outcome wasn't very good. And I think there's some skills there that we need to learn about what does it look like to work with these populations that come with maybe some human struggles that we need to not be naive or dismissive of, and this idea of setting boundaries, of accountability, reliability within the context of what's possible with these populations. So, you know, I just really wanted to hear more from those people, like Liz and Andy, but anybody that works with those populations, to say, how do you give people the dignity of work and to support them when they come from these situations and still not end up, you know, having it be some sort of a charity situation or, you know, negative for both people involved, or both parties.
That is an excellent question, Katie. Thank you.
I think that's a good topic, Katie. We've had some work with Liz this week at Project Leo, just facing those kind of things day to day, how you manage expectations and yet be supportive of something like that. So I love that. That'd be a great topic just for 1 month.
Yeah, and just to share another story from San Antonio, Jim shared a really fascinating story about one client who had an employee with an obvious addiction problem, and this person was caught stealing from the business. And so, of course, the owner's natural reaction was, well, you know, we can't have somebody who's addicted and, you know, stealing from the business. It's going to undermine us. But Jim talked to this person and said, well, you know, is there a possibility of maybe this person going through rehab, for example, and, you know, getting cleaned up and then coming back to work? And this owner agreed to that. And so rather than firing this person outright, they ended up successfully going through a rehab program, basically being, you know, rehired at work. And that person ended up being a very productive employee. And I think it was a single parent. And so, you know, a lot was at stake for this woman to get her life in order. And it turned out to be happy, but Andy also, as you may or may not have heard, shared stories where, and sometimes it's really messy and they remain unable to break their addictive patterns, and it's really hard. But I think the difference is that rather than instituting policies, and I work in HR departments where policies were a mile long and you could almost trace every single infraction that must have precipitated the addition of those lines of under what conditions certain people would be disciplined or would be let go or whatever. But, you know, I think, well, anyway, I don't want to steal Andy's thunder, but yeah, we could discuss more. Okay, so what can you do alternatively? Great idea. You know, another topic we thought about is maybe going through the colors and having people talk about how they implement each of the colors in their work situations and share war stories or questions. Would there be any interest in that? I see nods. Okay.
Yes, there would be.
Yeah, useful tool for sure.
Very good.
John,
and then...
oh, go ahead, John. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just going to say I did also want to just cover a practical logistical matter, which is, does this time, the first Wednesday of the month, work for all of you for next month? Because I tentatively said it, you know, this was a total shot in the dark, not knowing what people's availability or interest would be. But if it works for all of you, we'll have the same call, same time, and maybe see if there's any further feedback. And if this time doesn't work for some people, we may change it the third month, but at least for one more month, we'll try at the same time first Wednesday of the month. Okay, thank you,
Other
May.
than California getting up early in the morning, it's probably okay. California is nodding yes.
How is it for May? Yeah.
Yeah, you're there you go, May.
It's okay with us. Yeah, it's we wake up usually early, so
Okay, good.
so it's
You're a
fine.
good sport.
Yeah, it just to start, because we're going, like, we should be out at 8 and all this. So sometimes for Joe, though, I'm not sure if it's okay, because he has a meeting that starts at 8 at 7:30 or something like this, and he has to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for work, it's
Oh.
for the Rotary. He's part of the Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, nice.
so this is the only thing. But while he's in the car, he was listening to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it might work okay for him.
For next time, yeah, and then we'll see. Maybe it's another day. I don't know. Is another day would work for everyone? I don't know.
Yeah, let's maybe look at calendars for next time and see if another day works. I would have more flexibility, except for the next couple months, I'm in Europe, and so what's early for you is getting towards the end of my day. So couldn't do it too much later, but possibly a lunchtime. Let's see, lunch would be, yeah, I could probably do a lunch.
John, I think
Don't know if that would be better.
I think the advantage is just to put the date far enough ahead that if people can plan, they can do that. We have so many things in work that pop up. Maybe an hour later could work too, or midday, or either side of lunch for me, but that's not the same for everybody. So as long as you put it out there, if
people can plan around it, right? Okay, well, that sounds good. Well, why don't we do that? And I love the suggestion about the topic. So I'd say for next time, why don't we tackle that question of, so everybody come with ideas, please, and I'll see if maybe I can get Andy to join our call. Andy, and I apologize, I can't remember his wife's name.
Celeste.
Celeste, yes. I'm sure they would be a great resource for us. And if you folks know of other people who are currently doing this kind of work, let's invite them to join us.
John, I just wanted to know what Bob Dylan thinks of this call. We haven't heard from Bob Dylan this morning.
I'm right here. Thank you, John, for the invitation.
All right. I just, when Bob's staring at me, it's hard not to think about you.
I hope it was a musical gift for you during the course of our conversation. My name is Patrick Gilger. I know a few of the people on this call, and I'm a Jesuit priest living in New York City. And I was at the meeting in San Antonio as well, and got interested in the economy of communion because of some research I'm doing on the Focolare. It's been really a gift to learn a little more about what the movement is doing. And so Mike Morse and I have had some really lovely conversations, and I've been up to Luminosa there. So I wanted to be here and participate without being too much of someone who would interrupt, but also not hiding in the background over much as well.
Well, to paraphrase Bob, the times they are a-changing.
Thank you for letting me be here. I really appreciate listening, and I look forward to learning more in the future with you guys.
Great. And Patrick, would you mind just sharing what your area of research is?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm a Jesuit priest, and I'm working on my my PhD in sociology, and so I'm trying to understand some of the movements of the church, including Focolare.
Well, thank you. That sounds fascinating, and I'm sure you'll have much to share with and enrich all of us from what you're seeing across the broader church.
Be happy to.
Excellent. Well, any final thoughts or comments, folks?
I want just to say that Joe texted me and he's okay with Wednesday.
Oh, great. Thank you, May. Very good. Well, thank you all for joining in the inaugural call of EoC North America, and delighted to have you all here, and feel free to connect with each other in between. Yeah, this has been really fun for me as well, so thank you.
Thanks,
Great,
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
everyone.
We'll see you all in a month.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Hey, Amy. Bye-bye.